everyone, welcome to my blog. By the way, my name is Mayan student of Jose Rizal Memorial State University, a first-year college student taking up Bachelor of Science in Accounting Information System, and my content of my blog today is all about history of science and a timeline highlighting the major discoveries and developments in science. But before that, I would like to thank you, my instructor in Science, Technology, and Society, Sir Gerald Adyong. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us the task to be a blogger. And now, first we will talk about the history of science.
Audio Jungle.
Why we need to study history of science? Studying the history of science allows us to have a glimpse into both the history of the world and into just how we discover everything we know about the world. Science is as old as the world itself, and there is no individual that can exactly identify when and where science began. From the genesis of time, science has existed, and it is always interwoven with society. History of science obviously includes many different facts about things which happened at the various times in the past. The history of science developed very significantly during the 20th century. The work that has been done in this area allows us to determine more precisely what we mean by the history of science and what ground this discipline covers. It is in the practice of the history of natural sciences plus the history of mathematics. It is only really that the human sciences came into consideration in this connection. Some people would give the term history of science a stricter sense, and it may just mean history of natural sciences. And also, the history of science has two principal concerns. First, to understand the way in which scientific knowledge progresses. Second, is to understand the notion of science itself, which involves the questions of what methods are truly scientific and what kind of knowledge science actually offers us. So, how can science be defined? First, science is an idea. It includes ideas, theories, and all available scientific explanation and observation about the natural and physical world. It is an explanation for how something works or the truth about some aspect of the world that was figured out using the scientific process. Science is where we make sense of the world by collecting data and doing experiments. Second, science is an intellectual activity. It encompasses a systematic and practical study of the natural and physical world. This process of study involves systematic observation and experimentations. And third, science as a body of knowledge. It is a subject or a discipline, a field of study, or a body of knowledge that deals with the process of learning about the natural and physical world. This is what we refer to as school science. Both the body of knowledge and the way of thinking that created advanced and are part of science. The knowledge that you learn from this method is added to scientific body of knowledge. And lastly, fourth, science is a personal and social activity. This explains that science is both knowledge and activities done by human beings to develop better understanding of the world around them. It is means to improve life and to survive life. It is interwoven with people's lives. So, those are the four that can define science. Human activities have involved in scientific activities in order to know and understand everything around them. They have personally observed about the natural and physical world in order to find meanings and seek answers to many questions. As Albert Einstein said, The important thing is to never stop questioning. So, we will never stop questioning until we find the answers of all our questions. And by the help of science or doing scientific observations and experimentations, all of our questions are surely we can find in answers. And the most interesting part of science is never finished. New discoveries leads to more questions, new mysteries to something else that needs explanations. This is just a brief historical background of science and technology in the Philippines. The history of science and technology in the Philippines started way back before the country gained its independence from the American colonizers. Before the coming of the Spaniards colonizers, the early inhabitants of the archipelago had their own culture and traditions. They had their own belief system and indigenous knowledge system that keeps them organized and sustain their lives and communities for many years. The Americans have more influence in the development of science and technology in the Philippines compared to the Spaniards. They established a public education system, improved the engineering works and health condition of the people. They established a modern research university, the University of the Philippines, and created more public hospitals than the former colonial master. The Americans did everything to Americanize the Philippines. They recognized the learning of science and introduced it into public and private schools. However, World War II has destabilized the development of the country in many ways. Institutions and public facilities were turned into ashes, houses were burned, and many lives were destroyed. The country had a difficult time to rebuild itself from the ruins of the war. The human spirit to survive and to rebuild the country may be strong, but the capacity to the country to bring back what was destroyed was limited. So those are just a historical background of science and technology in the Philippines. The Scientific Revolution. The idea of scientific revolution is claimed to have started in the early 16th century up to the 18th century in Europe. Why in Europe? The probable answers, the invention of the printing machine, and the blooming intellectual activities done in various places of learning, and the growing number of scholars in various fields of human interest. This doesn't mean, however, that science is a foreign idea transported from other areas of the globe. Anyone who can examine the history of science, technology, medicine, and mathematics is aware that all great civilizations of the ancient world had their own sophisticated traditions and activities related to these disciplines. Scientific revolution was the period of enlightenment when the developments in the fields of mathematics, physics, astronomy, biology, and chemistry transformed the views of society about nature. It explained the emergence or birth of modern science as a result of these developments from the disciplines mentioned. The ideas generated during this period enabled the people to reflect, rethink, and examine their beliefs and their way of life. There is no doubt that ignited vast human interest to rethink how they do science and view scientific process. Scientific revolution was the golden age where people committed to scholarly life and science, but it was also a deeply trying moment to some scientific individuals that led to their painful death or recommendation from the religious institutions who tried to preserve their faith, religion, and theological views. Scientific revolution is very significant in the development of human beings, transformation of the society, and in the formulation of scientific ideas. It significantly improved the conduct of scientific investigations, experimentations, and observations. The scientific revolution also led to the creation of new research fields and science and prompted the establishment of a strong foundation for modern science. In many ways, scientific revolution transformed the natural world and the world of ideas. To further understand what exactly happened during the scientific revolution, it is important to examine the different individuals whose ideas have shaken and contested the dominant theories by their ideas during this period. Scientists in this period of time are driven by their curiosity, critical thinking, and creativity to explore the natural and physical world. Their love for science are driven by their passion to know and to discover.
Audio Jungle.
It is important to note these three notable scientists,
Audio Jungle.
particularly to their ideas, have shaken the world. First notable scientist was Nicholas
Audio
Copernicus.
Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Nicholas Copernicus invented the heliocentric model. Centered around the sun, he claimed that all planets, including the Earth, move in orbits around the sun, and showed how this new system could accurately calculate the position of the planets. Second notable scientist was Charles Darwin. The theory of evolution by natural selection, first formulated in Darwin's book on the origin of species in 1859, is the process by which organisms change over the time as a result of changes in heritable physical or behavioral traits. And lastly, the third notable scientist was Sigmund Freud. Freud developed the psychoanalytic theory of personal development, which argued that personality is formed through conflicts among three fundamental structures of the human mind, which is id, ego, and superego.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Development of science in Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica includes the entire area of Central America from southern Mexico up to the border of South America. There is no doubt that the Mesoamerican region is rich in culture and knowledge prior to the arrival of its European colonizers. Maya civilization is one of the famous civilizations that lasted for approximately 2,000 years. These people are known for their works in astronomy. They incorporated their advanced understanding of astronomy into their temples and other religious structures. The Mayans are also known for measuring time using two complicated calendar systems. These calendars are very useful for their life, especially in planning their activities and observing their religious rituals and cultural celebrations. Mayans also developed the technology for growing different crops and building elaborate cities using ordinary machineries and tools. They built hydraulic systems with sophisticated waterways to supply water to different communities. The Inca civilization is also famous in Mesoamerica. The Incas made advanced scientific ideas, considering their limitation as an old civilization. The following were scientific ideas and tools that they developed to help them in everyday life. First, roads paved with stones. Second, stone buildings that surmounted earthquakes and other disasters. Third, irrigation system and technique for storing water for the crops to grow in all types of land. Fourth, calendar with 12 months to mark the religious festivals and prepare them for planting season. Fifth, the first suspension bridge. And sixth, Kipo, a system of noted groups to keep records that only experts can interpret. And last, seven, Inca textiles, since cloth was one of the specially prized artistic achievements. Following the Inca was the Aztec civilization. has also made substantial contribution to science and technology and to the society. Some of their contributions are the following. Their first contributions is the mandatory education. The Aztec puts value in education. That is why their children are mandated to get education regardless of their social class, gender, or age. Second is the chocolates. The Aztec in Mexico developed chocolate during their time. Third is antispasmodic medication. They use a type of antispasmodic medication that could prevent muscle spasms and relax muscles, which could help during surgery. Fourth is chinampa. It is a form of Aztec technology for agriculture farming, in which the land was divided into rectangular areas and surrounded by canals. Fifth is Aztec calendar. This enabled them to plan their activities, rituals, and planting seasons. And lastly, sixth is the invention of canoe, a light narrow boat used for traveling in water systems. That's all for today, and thank you for watching.